My name's Oauja Walker. I am 42 years old. I'm originally from New York and I reside currently in Las Vegas, Nevada. My daughter has a closed brain injury from an accident and I'm her caregiver. Currently she has some issues. She has dealing with seizure deficit disorder and a little PTSD, so we're trying to figure it out. And she currently goes back and forth from Salt Lake City, and that's it. My daughter is like she's the reason why I wake up in the morning. Taking care of her is my first priority. That's the thing that brings me the most joy in my world. She's the reason why I wake up. My interests pretty much are taking care of my daughter. I really don't have any hobbies yet. I'm trying to find some. I was first diagnosed 5 years ago with stage 2B invasive ductal carcinoma, which was hormone positive. And then 5 years later, last year, I was diagnosed with stage 4 metastatic breast cancer, which had spread to my chest wall, part of my lung. As of right now, my last appointment was last week. They think it got worse because they said for a while I was no evidence of disease and some of my tumors were shrinking. But now out of nowhere, my labs come back. My calcium levels had doubled. So I have to wait until next week to do another PET scan to see if indeed it was something that happened that made my calcium levels and my cancer marker double again, or and figure out if there's cancer spread somewhere else. Well, there was a period where I lost my Medicaid insurance because I had did too much overtime. So it was like about a year where I didn't have any money to go to the doctor. So when I finally was able to get Medicaid again, because I couldn't afford the insurance through my employer, she ran my labs and my cancer markers were like quadruple. I actually found out from the pulmonologist who did my bone biopsy that I was stage 4. And then I had to wait a whole 7 days till the oncologist told me exactly where my cancer had spread. The pulmonologist, he was the first person that told me. It seemed like everybody else knew something and I didn't, because they were all looking at me like they're all sad. They were like, "You're the girl here for the follow-up and the bone biopsy." And I was like, "Yeah." And they looked at me like they saw death. So when I walked into the room, he wasn't as happy as he usually was. So I was like, "Oh God, something's wrong." So he was like, "Good thing." He was like, "It's only a small part that's in your lung." I was like, "What? Small part of what?" And he was like, you have metastatic breast cancer." I was like, "Ugh." And he was like, "And you really don't have to follow up with me anymore." He was like, "You'll follow with your oncologist." And he walked out the door. I was like, "Oh God, what do I do?" Because metastatic to me was just automatically death to me. So I had to walk that long walk all the way out his office. I got in the elevator with people and my legs like almost trembled, and this man saw me crying in the elevator and he was like holding my hand. This man, stranger, I'd never seen this man before. He picked me up out of the parking lot because I literally couldn't move. Maybe a few days later, my appointment was with the oncologist, and that's when she told me. And me and her argued for a minute because I was so mad that, I felt like she was blaming me for my new diagnosis. Like, you didn't do what I told you to do. You didn't come back. You didn't tell me you didn't have insurance. And I'm like, everybody that called me, I told them I can't come. I have no insurance. She told me, "Well, we could have did this, but well, we can't. I have it now." That part really hurt my feelings because then when I went home, I cried for a long time because I thought it was like everything was my fault. It was gut-wrenching at first when I first found out about my diagnosis of having stage 4. It was hard to deal with. I felt like my world was coming to an end. The only thing that I pretty much had was like the social media, and I was quite aware of like, you know, different groups that were on the Instagram and Facebook, but I really didn't have a lot of resources to go to here in Nevada. It's important for me to share my story because I don't want people to feel like I did. When I first got diagnosed, I felt like it was pretty much my fault because I wasn't able to afford to go to the doctor, or because I worked too much, and that was the reason why my Medicaid got discontinued. The feelings that they're going through, it's normal. We've all had them, and it's okay to feel that way, but you got to get out that feeling because you're gonna like be miserable like I was at first. For someone that's newly diagnosed, it's kind of tough. You can't make cancer your whole life. You can't always live in fear of worrying about dying. You just gotta live life one day at a time and live life as it is now. And you pretty much have no time for rewrites. You gotta remove all the negativity out of your life and remain positive regardless. There's gonna be good and there's gonna be bad days. But each day that you're granted to like wake up and make it a brand new day, it's an opportunity to start it all over. The worst part about it is my tooth loss, because I started losing my teeth with stage 2B cancer. When I had my chemo, they just started popping out of my mouth. That's the most embarrassing part because I haven't really smiled in a long time. Some of the physical challenges that I face with a BC, waking up in the morning, it takes my bones probably about 15-20 minutes to get the oil all running through them, so I'm cracking, I'm popping. It's hard to walk some days, especially out here in Vegas when the weather's not that great. I lost my teeth because of it. What else? There's days and the mental problems that you get from it. I'm usually always a happy-go-lucky person, always smiling. And it causes you to have like, you know, like issues mentally that you can't really talk to people about unless they've been there. Some of the financial hardships that I deal with right now even stem from my first diagnosis. I had to quit working for a while because my mom had died and I had a lot of things going on. There was nobody to take care of my daughter. Now with my second diagnosis, I lost everything. I don't have my home. I lost my clothes. I've lost everything that's important to me. I pretty much rely on one individual, and I'm thankful for having them around. My hopes is that, like, you know, pretty much the economy will come back to the way it should be. People will realize, like, you know, there's people like us out there that have compromised immune systems, and that they should always wear their mask. My fear is dying from one extra thing besides metastatic breast cancer. It's gonna be COVID, one of the two. I kept telling them, like, you know, my armpit hurt or my chest right here was hurting, and they kept telling me it was because my anemia or because my thyroid level was too high. And I didn't want to come across like, you know, like that angry black girl where I kept telling them, I kept calling, and they kept saying, oh, it's just because your levels are too high in your thyroid, or your blood level was too low. But come to find out, my cancer had ended up progressing into my right lymph node. So always be an advocate for yourself, regardless to what they tell you. Just tell them it don't feel right. So it's okay to like have that stereotype of being an angry black woman. Just argue with them until like they agree with you to do some type of testing, because like I said, my right armpit was swollen, it was hurting, and they kept saying it was lymphedema. I know a lot of black people, like, we all care about our health, but there's some that really aren't educated, and there's nobody there to teach them. So like they just blow life away. In actuality, it's like cancer, heart disease, those are the major factors that are killing us, and no one really listens. I feel that there's there's a lack of trust in the Black community towards, like, healthcare providers. Basically because, a lot of providers treat them differently. They know the difference. They sit in a waiting room. They notice the difference between a patient that has good insurance and a patient that has Medicaid. After you keep going into the doctor so long and you notice that your doctor won't see you, they rather throw you to a physician assistant. That's a problem. And that's where the trust and the miscommunication comes through in the Black community, where they rather stay at home, make homemade remedies, and never go to the provider again because they just don't trust them. It's important for me as a Black woman to talk about NBC because it's my life. A lot of women hide, Black women pretty much hide from it. Like the depression part that comes with it from the medication. I was raised that Black women, we don't get depression. Only white girls do. And that's a lie. I just wanted to know that it's okay. It's okay to have bad days. I've been through the most worst stuff that you can imagine. My reality is that people say, I'm death positive, but I refuse to claim it. And as long as you have faith and just research and do what's best for you, you'll make it through it, honestly, because I thought I was about to kill over if I didn't have somebody in my life. Or I thought if I didn't have this particular person in my life, that dying alone was the worst thing in the world. And sometimes that's the most peaceful thing you can actually have when you don't have that negativity in your life anymore. My hopes in the future is that, hopefully there's a cure before they say this disease will take me. But elsewise, I'm just gonna try to live the best life that I can possibly live, have as much fun as I can possibly have, and don't screw up my ticket to heaven. Having that fun.